Tēnā rā tātou katoa e te iwi, e te whānui o Taranaki. Nau mai haere mai ki tēnei Taiohi Hour. Ko ai ahau, ko Taranaki te maunga, ko Waingongoro te awa, ko Aotea te waka, ko ngā ruahine rawa ko ngā tiruanui o ku iwi, ko araukuku tōku hapu, ko ngā rongo tōku marae, ko te whatumanawa ngātai tangirua tōku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa. By day, I am a Māori Health Recruitment Officer for Whakapikiake at the University of Auckland, and by night I'm a dancer for the Royal Family Dance Company. Today, we are talking about all things Hauora Māori, a kaupapa I am very passionate about, and I know our guests are too. So it is my pleasure to introduce our awesome panel to you all, and I'm just going to get right into it, and I'm going to hoatu te rākau ki a koe Zane to start our introductions. Kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā koe mara, nau e whakatō te mauri ki tēnei kaupapa. Tēnā rā tātou katoa, ko ai tēnei, huri whakahiki tēnei no tūwhare toa, ngai te rangi, o Ngāti Kahungunu ki te Wairoa hoki, ko Zane aku hata Huntington tōku ingoa. And yeah, sure, I'll follow your sort of structure. It's much more scripted than what I had planned whatu. So by day, I'm a professional practice fellow at Kohatu Centre for Hauora Māori at the University of Otago. And that's just some really flash kupu for my mahi, which is just teaching Hauora Māori at the university, mostly into our medical school, our dental school, and our undergraduate Bachelor of Health Sciences program, which is pretty mean. But outside of that, I'm an avid skier. In a past life, I was a ski instructor, and you can see my babies in the background just there, my prized possessions. I just love all things outdoors, all things Hauora Māori, all things Māori in general. As well, but we'll learn more about each other as we go along, I reckon. So I'm going to hoatu te raku kia koe Lucy.
Tēnā koe Zane. Tēnā tātou, ko ai tēnei ko Lucy Marshall tōku ingoa, he uri whakahiki tēnei o tūwhare toa raukawa ki whare puhunga me kahungunu ki te Wairoa. He pānga hoki aku ki te Atiawa, Ngāti Toa Rangatira me te whanau apanui. Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I'm from Taupo, that's where I grew up with my grandparents on a marae called Pōkura. By day, I was a tauira, but I've just recently finished, so I should be a nurse soon. Next year, I'll be working in the emergency department at North Shore Hospital. I live in Rakipai Whenua. Yeah, that's me. Kia ora. Oh, over to you, Marie.
Oh, we're just going to have to chuck you off mute there. Kei te pai, that's all good. Otherwise, you've got me to do it for you.
I could do sign language, but I wasn't going to pull that off. So, aroha mai, ko Māori ahau, no Taranaki ahau. I am a mama of 4. I live in Waitara. I grew up in the Chatham Islands. I work for Taranaki Maunga Project, which is basically an organisation that is part of pest control on Taranaki, among other things. I am passionate about rongoa Māori, and what else? I'm a beekeeper in my pastime.
That's great.
Ai, kia ora koutou.
Ka pai. Well, I would like to just extend my mihi out to my panel, as they are just a complete awesome bunch of people, and I think they do a very good job at showing themselves off, so I'll do that for them throughout our kōrero tonight. So what we're going to do is we're just going to be having a good old kōrero about Hauora Māori and kind of just our whakaaro and experiences around what that means for us. But before we get started, I'm just going to mention that we have a giveaway on offer, and that is our $50 Rebel Sports voucher, as well as a 1-hour PT session with one of our ambassadors, Bonnie Jane PT. And our winner will be chosen from within the comments and announced later, so just keep an eye out for that. Okay, and so I'm just going to start throwing some questions out there to you, whānau, so pick them up and we'll see where this goes. So our first question is, what is Hauora Māori? Who would like to take the first leap? Go on, you got this, guys. Any one of you. All right, we just...
No, come on, I got it. I got us. We'll kick us off. We'll get into it.
Yeah, same order.
For me, I guess Hora Māori to me is everything. It's like our life. It's everything that we do. It's a beautiful journey that we are on throughout our whole lives, and it's something that we share with our whānau, with our friends, with our hapu, with our iwi, with ngā tangaka katoa, I guess. So yeah, it's a beautiful waka that we're all on together. That's a little bit of what it is to me.
Nice. And what about you, Lucy? What do you think?
I think Hora Māori. Oh, it's like a simple question, but hard.
Yes.
But to me, I think our haura as Māori is something that is unique to us. It's very different to what non-Māori perceive health to be. I feel like every single individual and every single ethnicity has their own idea of health and things that are important. It's something that's been handed down to us from our ancestors, and but has also been ever changing since our ancestors walked this earth. You know, it's very much changed and has very much been impacted by Western ideologies of health these days. And it's just, I guess, something that us rangatahi can strive for is to, safeguard our haura, but also try and incorporate our tikanga into this new idea that is haura Māori today. So yeah, I think it's very unique. And it's ours. That's
a great answer. Ka pai. What about you, Murray? What do you think?
Make sure I'm unmuted this time. For me, well, it's a bit hard coming last, but I just really think a lot to me, it comes back to our whenua, and I think we're a real reflection of our whenua. And so in some situations we're in a good state, but in others not so much. So maybe when we I think for Māori it's very different, because I don't think necessarily the Western world would reflect on themselves as how well they're doing in themselves as can be impacted by the whenua both ways, be it giving back to the whenua means that usually our own selves, our own haura picks up, or vice versa. If when our whenua is depleted, then we are too. So that's probably, to me, just maybe the difference between us and other societies. Yeah.
Cool. So I think what we're sharing here is could I get you on mute, kia ora? So what I think we've covered is that Hora Māori is big kaupapa, but within our own personal beliefs, we have our own understandings of what that means, but it is connected by tikanga, it's connected by mātauranga Māori, and at the base of it we have our taiao, our hononga there, our connections there. So I kind of just want to throw kind of a side question in there, because I think it plays a nice role in this. And it comes to that idea of when you're born as Māori, and this is just something that I believe, is you're born with the role as a kaitiaki, okay, as a caretaker. And that's in relation not just as to you taking care of yourselves and others, but also you're a kaitiaki of your taiao and your pepeha. What do you guys have to say about that in terms of what we can be doing as kaitiaki and how that applies to our haura Māori? Who would like to answer that?
Sorry, I cut out. Could you repeat the question, Fatu?
Yep. So, we as Māori, we have this role as a kaitiaki, and, I can give a clue in the sense of when we think about our pepeha. Yep. And at each element of, or each aspect of our pepeha, we have a role as a kaitiaki to take care of that, right? How does that serve in relation to our impact on our haora? Maybe if something negative was to happen to an aspect of our pepeha in relation to us as kaitiaki, what does that then have an impact on our haora?
Yeah, well, I think Marie really encapsulated part of the answer in hers just before when she was talking about the whenua, and that really unique and special relationship we have as Māori to the whenua. You can take the kupu hauora in itself and take that hau out of it and think of the wind. And for me, we think of like health as sort of being something intangible that we all have, or something that we can't really sense or feel. We know it's a thing that exists, but we don't see it. You just know that your heart beats, or that you are breathing in and out, or whatever. But for me, when I think of that aspect of hau in haora, That's the wind. You can put your hand out and you can touch those things. You can look out to the taiao. You can look out to the moana. You can look out to the wai. You can see how all those things are doing, whether they're thriving or whether they're struggling or whatever it may be. And I think those things reflect on ourselves. I think with just even my room, if my room's messy, it's typically a reflection of what's going on upstairs or what's just happening in my life. Like things are just chaotic or whatever. But on days like today where I've hopefully got my stuff together, it's a bit cleaner and it looks a bit better. So all those sorts of things, like I think we often conceptualize health and well-being as being something that just sort of exists on this continuum or whatever, and not something that we really have an influence on physically. But I think it is something tangible that we can touch on and can influence and can see. And I guess that's where our role of kaitiaki comes in, because if we can see those things, we can do something about them, whether it's positive or to just like whakapai those things or whatever.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that sets a great tone for our kōrero tonight. So I'm going to keep it moving. And I kind of want you guys to take yourselves back to a younger version of yourself and start thinking about, and this is a two-parter, what inspired you to pursue a career in health, or kind of where you guys are at today, and what is your why factor for doing so? Okay, so we'll follow our same order. And yeah, let me hear what you guys have to say about that.
What first inspired me for a career in health was that I grew up with severe eczema growing up. So I was in and out of the doctors and really didn't have a very great experience in terms of my condition, I guess you call it. It really played a part on all sides of my hauora, especially my self-esteem. And I really wanted to empathize with people like me and help others, because I really appreciated the care that health professionals provided for me. And also tied to that, growing up on my marae with my grandparents, who are the ahika of our marae Pōkura. I was always at kaupapa. We were always looking after, like what we just talked about before, we're kaitiaki of our whenua, and of our hapu and our iwi. So I feel like, not to brag, but manaakitanga is in my DNA, and there's no better career path than nursing. To me, manaakitanga, caring for others, is a key, if not the most important value of nursing. And we work most intimately with patients and with people, and that's what I love doing and what I'm passionate about. And of course, just tied to that is just being Māori, and like we've already talked about, safeguarding our hauora and the inequitable outcomes that our people face today really motivates me. That's my why and why I got into health.
Awesome. Let's keep it going.
Ka pai. That's awesome. That's awesome, Lucy. I really, I can really feel that for myself as well, like with basically for rongoa Māori, like it's really about others, isn't it? And it's, for me, it came naturally from loving the ngāere. And then obviously the medicinal side to that, really it's about helping meet other people's needs, really. I mean, you do harvest rongoa for yourself, but 99% of the time it's for others, to see where you can help others, building relationship and making those connections. I think for me, my why was accidental. I didn't choose rongoa Māori, it really chose me. I didn't grow up with that sort of knowledge per se, but I grew up in the bush, and it translated into that as I got older. When I say I grew up in the bush, I mean that was our playground as young children. Yep. And just, it's funny how what you love to do when you were little, or even rangatahi, what you're drawn towards ends up becoming your career path. So rongoa is something that, as much as rongoa can be healing to other people, and going out and harvesting and being in that ngahere is healing to me. So, and then hopefully, first and foremost, it's healing to papa, for us to be in those places and, be our eyes and ears to the whenua. Kia ora.
Awesome. What about you, Zane?
Well, I've been stitched up following those two. But I guess I'll just share the story that I tell our tauira at the university. For me, I always had an interest in health and well-being. I always saw it as like a vehicle for reciprocation, be able to give back to others that had given to you growing up and stuff. So when I came to uni, I was like, oh yeah, keen as to do or follow a career path in health or something. And I thought that looked like medicine at the time. So I went down to Dunedin, did first year health site and failed half my papers. So I was like, cool, not the path for me yet. Let's find another one. So I left, and that's when I decided to become a ski instructor. Because that was something I loved and it was a passion. I'd always grown up around the mountains and stuff, and that was a place that felt safe and like hope for me. So I was like, let's give that a crack. Went up and had a mean season, and then there was one whānau that I met that they'd come over from Australia, and the mum was Australian, the dad was Australian, but he had Indian whakapapa, and they had two beautiful boys as well. And dad and their two boys were brown skinned. The boys were super quick at picking up the skiing skills and everything, but dad was struggling a little bit throughout the week. And then one thing he just said to me just stuck with me, and he goes, oh no, like it's just not for me, brown people like don't ski. And it just sort of struck a chord with me, because I was like, bro, I'm brown and I'm like skiing. If I can do it, any of us can. And it like just made me dwell on that for a bit, and it made me realize that people don't see themselves as being, especially Indigenous peoples or people who often feel like marginalized in society and stuff, don't feel like they have access to the same opportunities, or don't think that they're just as capable as their peers. So for me, that just drove me to go back to uni and go, oh no, we need to like change those sorts of whakaaro and people's thinking around that sort of thing. So I went back and did my studies in Māori health as another vehicle of supporting the health and well-being, the hauora of everyone, of Māori in particular. And for me, that was one of the driving factors, I guess, that influenced me to go back into that, even though it started off quite bumpy and rough. Eventually got there at the end, and now it's crack up as that I like teach the things that I used to be a student in. So that's sort of full circle for me, and I get to see myself giving back now, which is mean.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for sharing. And I just want to spotlight in that moment real quick. So don't panic, but Zane and Lucy, for our rangatahi mā, when we could think about some advice that we can give to them who could be interested in taking up a career in health, or, you know, could pursue a direction towards Māori health, what are some of the advice that you could give to them?
Don't let anybody tell you what you can or can't do. If there's a will, there is 100% a way. And I think that's the beauty of Te Ao Māori as well, is that we're seeing this growth and development of these, well, take these two wahine toa down here, who are like championing areas in their spaces for Māori, are carving out paths for you to follow. And hopefully you'll be able to carve your own path in those spaces as well. So if there's a will, there's a way. Don't listen to what other people say.
Kia ora,
Yeah.
Lucy.
And I think it's important to be ambitious, but also to think it through, not rush into things. But if you do, you know, it's okay if you don't make it the first time. Me and Zane both understand. I also was one of those ones who did health sci, and it didn't work out, but I eventually found my passion. I always knew I loved hauora, so, you know, you will find your path eventually, and it is really hard in university. So, yeah, I think I encourage rangatahi, though, from my experiences, to really think it through, and know that you don't have to rush or feel pressured to, you know, to go to university, or, you know, to do whatever you're doing, and, you know, but be ambitious.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think you guys are great examples of breaking that standard that we are taught to follow when it comes to a pathway, or te ara tika in terms of hauora Māori. But, you know, hauora Māori is like a journey of life. You know, you're going to have to learn from everything that you do throughout your journey. And I think that's embedded within us as Māori. You know, as the concept of te ao Māori or tikanga, we're learners of life. And I think if we can grasp onto that and just believe in ourselves, then those kind of dreams and aspirations can very much become a reality. So kia ora korua and koutou hoki. So moving along, tell me a bit more about, because you guys are obviously all working in different areas of health, what areas within health are you guys passionate about? Because there's a lot underneath the umbrella of health, but maybe you guys could highlight some of the things you guys are most passionate about. Kia ora. Marie, you might want to start on that one.
Probably for me, it's whakaaro whānau connections really important in the way of maybe trying to think carefully how I word this. Just really, I guess, like the before thinking about you guys saying how, you know, your pathway where that led to, you know, you can go on a path and it might not end up, you know, and to be okay with making those mistakes, but you really need a supportive community around you. It's not a mistake, it's just finding your right path. And I think when it comes to Hauora, like, we sometimes try and do the one size fits all for everyone, and actually trust yourself that you know you, and have your whānau support you in that. You know, there's sometimes people who, you know, Lucy, with your eczema, you know, there's not a one size fits all, and then that can be, your journey can help someone else, and to be maybe open to sharing with each other, because sometimes being vulnerable with each other and sharing something that didn't work is someone else's key to finding their solution. And so vulnerability and being open to sharing is probably that. Does that even make sense in your question? Aroha mai.
But yeah, and I wonder, the point you made around, oh, can I just get you on mute? We're having a clash with, I just want to highlight the point you made about health is not a one size fits all model. I think that's really important to highlight there, and the holistic nature of Hauora Māori competes against that, right? And every person is different. You are right. It is about you. And being Māori is being able to take in what is that person, who they are, where do they come from, okay? What are those contributing factors to getting them to where they are today? And then that's where you then take them into, well, if you're doing a diagnosis or something. But just to reemphasize that, no, Hauora is not a one size fits all whānau. If you're out there, you know, everyone's different. And being able to work with our whānau, our hapori and iwi to figure out those differences would just be the icing on the cake for us, I reckon. Zane, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I guess for me, it's pretty simple what I'm passionate about. That's our tamariki and our rangatahi. I just think they're the coolest people out. Way more fun than adults. They've got way less fear, way more energy. There's just heaps about them that's really exciting. And I think it's been encapsulated since way before for us from our tupunas days. And I even just think like the whakatauki, ka pū te ruha, ka hao te rangatahi, and think of how our tamariki and our rangatahi are just conduits for future change, I guess. They're the ones that we do everything we do for. But also that they've just got some amazing insights and wisdom with them, especially when it comes to health. And one thing that always strikes me is the things like even my brother faced growing up, and he's 6 years younger than me, were different to the challenges or like opportunities that I had. So I think for me, my passion in that area is about driving them to be the ones that are steering the waka or who are leading kaupapa or whatever, especially when it's about them. If we're doing something for our tamariki, if we're doing something for our rangatahi, we need to be hearing about the things that they want to do or the things that get them excited or what their contributions can be to those spaces. Because I think us as I'm nearly that on that rangatahi adjacent age bracket now, nearly Pakeke, but not quite. That we're often like making these things and telling our kids what they should be doing instead of them informing us how we can best resource them or best support them to grow their health and well-being. So that's my area of passion. That's what I'm really interested in and what drives me to do the mahi I do, I guess.
Kia ora. Lucy, what are you passionate about?
Kia ora koro, or Zane. What I'm really passionate about is cultural safety or kawa whakareruhau. I really am passionate about tikanga Māori, te reo Māori, mātauranga Māori, and, you know, binding, incorporating it into my practice as a nurse, soon to be nurse. I think it really is one of the keys to improving health inequities within our hospital, within primary health, within all areas of health, returning the power to the patients or to Māori to make decisions for themselves and their health, and also just to feel heard and feel like they, you know, that healthcare is a little bit more fitting to them. I really want to improve Māori experiences from admission to discharge within the hospital, especially. I'm starting in ED next year. That's one of the key reasons why I chose to go to ED. I feel like, Māori experiences within the hospital specifically can be negative. And places like ED, which are the door to the hospital, are those places that sadly do, cause those experiences for Māori. So I feel like spaces like ED and doors to healthcare especially need to improve cultural safety and educate staff more about tikanga and about, our mātauranga, so our patients also can feel like they are being heard and understood within healthcare. That's something I'm really passionate about and wanting to look into as a nurse. Obviously, I not like you guys. I'm not a professional yet. I will be in February when I start mahi. But that's definitely something I want to advocate for moving forward as a nurse. Moving towards that goal of trying. Obviously, it will never be like it used to be, but just trying to incorporate our way of hauora into this Western healthcare system that we see now.
Oh,
So that's
awesome.
something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. And, me, myself, I'm very much passion-led. So to hear that you guys are passionate about these areas of health, I'm just excited to see what changes and developments can be made. So with the spaces that you guys have been working in, and you can just speak within what you guys have experienced and observed, what have been some of the challenges you face working within your areas of health? Okay, and just be honest, right? There's a learning to be had within these kōrero. So, Marie, what are some of the challenges you've been facing in your mahi?
Well, several years ago when I first started, basically probably as a young mama, when I went to my doctor and I had, say, a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and I expressed my desire to use rongoa Māori for my tamariki, and I recall the doctor's reaction was kind of poo-hooed and, take your witchy stuff away and, that's not going to help. And that was a real big thing, like 5-10 years ago, and really for people to see rongoa Māori as fitting alongside Western medicine, it was just there's no way. It was alternate. It wasn't equal. It was alternate, and weirdos did that stuff. And so, really, what I can see now is that there's been a real change, but there has to be a lot of pushing in these places for us to trust and back ourselves with our mātauranga Māori, that mātauranga Māori can stand alongside and actually in front of, in some situations, medicines. When we think about, that hauora is not one size fits all. Sometimes there are situations where Western medicine isn't the right thing, and rongoa Māori might be for some people. And so it's probably that really pushing for our people to trust, to speak up. I had some really good experiences in the last couple of years where the GPs who are being trained in the local hospital have had a session with myself, so that they don't learn rongoa Māori per se, but they have an understanding about what they could come across and how to not drop their jaw and how to smile instead of, and so as much as it's hard in some situations, you can see that there's movement. And I think that for the next generation, keep pushing and be proud of our mātauranga Māori. Don't think of it as something to hide in the back that you, that's been a challenge for me personally.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Well, I don't know how busy you are, but I know plenty more places that need that learning. So it'd be cool to be able to see if we can get more of those teachings in there, because it is important. And, we all have our own experiences with all of those challenges and whānau members. And I know that my nan would, in some circumstances, value rongoa Māori in terms of her healing and management strategies a lot more than Western medicines. Zane, what are some of the challenges you've had to face?
Yeah, I guess from me, I view this from two different lenses. The first one sort of being like a macro lens, and being someone who works within an academic institution. Wow, we've got so many challenges we as Māori face as Māori academics in that space. I feel like there's a constant sort of struggle to prove this concept of like Māori excellence, and that Māori are excellent, or that Māori are smart or intelligent or capable, all those sorts of things, because we don't meet the standards that these Western or Pākehā-centric institutions have established. A lot of the time, you need as many letters as you can get after your name before you're recognised as being an expert in your area. But I look at some of my peers, I look at some of my taina, and they're only like young, and I'm already like, wow, there's so much I already learned from you that you could share with this world. And the only letters you've got after your name is your last name. Like, you don't need a PhD or something to prove to me the qualifications you've got to contribute to any discussion. And likewise, I just think of when our ancestors navigated over here, like they didn't need all these fancy tools like what you see on. Admittedly, my only source is like Pirates of the Caribbean and all the like tools and stuff that the white pirate, or like the white sailors and the British used on that. But like they just knew everything from navigating and exploring and just reading the environment and stuff like that. Already proves that we've got excellence running in our blood. So for me, it's a struggle sometimes to have to feel like we're constantly proving ourselves that we are an excellent people, because we are, and we inherently know that. But often these Western systems don't. And then I guess to be on the micro level, and I'm so sorry that I've forgotten who said this, but it cracks me up every time, and I just keep it now, is that we're dealing with a spam issue, and spam standing for stale, pale, and male. And we just need those people to sort of, nekiha, and just allow
Run that one back.
yeah, lock that one in, keep that ete whānau in your back pocket. But we see these people who are sort of being barriers themselves by not letting people come through, or to challenge what has been the norm or what is known to be typical. And they're scared, I guess, to endeavor out into these, what they would call unknown lands, but we know that it's known. We know everything that we're exploring. We know this land like the back of our hands. So for me, I think there's a real challenge to just make the institutions that we live in accessible to everyone. I mean, ultimately, we're doing this for everyone that lives around us. We're doing this for our whānau. We're doing this for our communities. We're doing this for Aotearoa. So there's no reason that things should be made inaccessible, or have this sort of idea of elitism, or have people sitting in their ivory tower, whatever metaphor you want to use for those experiences. But those are challenges that I face outside of also just having a huge student loan and all those sorts of normal things as well.
Preach it. Yeah, and again, just want to re-emphasize there's what I took away was that Māori are excellent. Rangatahi mā, you're excellent. Okay, please don't forget that. Kia ora. Lucy, what are some of the challenges you face?
Okay. A key challenge for me, I guess I can just reflect really as a tauira, was we're entering into the Western institutions that like into the DHBs. I did struggle throughout, feeling like an alien in those environments. It's very lonely as Māori in the hospitals and healthcare and haura in general. Yeah, I felt really lonely throughout, and not really having or barely having any Māori staff to relate to. Lack of knowledge from staff about culture, obviously back to cultural safety again. That's why it's needed not only for our patients, but for our Māori staff too, so we can feel more empowered in what we do. Yeah, and just, I guess, adjusting to what it is, a fully Western world, which is like the hospital life was hard for me. And also it's funny because I always encourage my Māori patients to speak up if they don't understand things, if they have concerns, if they, for example, if they're scared to be discharged, if they have any issues with whānau, anything, I encourage them to speak up and I advocate for them. But I actually, as a tauira, I guess there's that hierarchy element, but I actually was quite myself scared to speak up sometimes and ask questions, or if I did see things that weren't correct, I usually wasn't shy to say stuff, but it is hard in those environments, being a tauira. And so I guess that goes out to all the tauira out there, and Taranaki, especially all the nursing tauira. not being shy to stand up for your patients, especially Māori, advocating for patients, even as students. It's so important for us to, even, you may be a tauira, but, if you can be an expert in your tikanga Māori and a mātauranga Māori, so it's your right, to stand up for things that ain't right, that you don't think are right. So that's something I learned, and also had to, I have to practice what I preach. So I'm hoping going as a nurse that improves. It's scary though. I'm going into a hospital that has a demographic of quite a lot of Pākehā and non-Māori middle class people. So it's definitely a challenge as Māori, but that's why we're there. We're just one of the, hopefully a full army that's coming. We just got to pave the way. So challenge.
Awesome. Yeah, and I saw a Facebook photo, not to bring Facebook into this kōrero, but the photo itself was talking about there was this famous artist in a cafe, and a person recognized them and said, "Oh, can I please get a drawing?" Because they admired the work they'd done, and the artist grabbed the napkin near to them and did up a portrait and gave it to them and charged them $20,000. And the person freaked out and was like, $20,000, but it's on a napkin. It should only be $20. But the artist then said, "Oh, but I've been doing this all my life. Without all the learnings that I've had, you wouldn't have been able to get what you got on that napkin." And I think that speaks very much to mātauranga Māori. We start learning once we're born, and even before that we're learning, okay? And right up to the point that you are working, you're still on this journey. So how can you put a value on mātauranga Māori so quickly, So thank you for sharing that, guys. It's really good to hear the challenges you guys are facing, and this is just a props to you guys for being able to continue to champion those pathways forward for us all, just like everyone else in the health sector that's been doing that before us too. Okay, so with those challenges, what are some of the successes, or what are some of the highlights? Okay, something more positive with working in the spaces that you've done. And we'll just go with you, Marie, again. What are some of the highlights you've had working with the rongoā Māori? Kia ora.
Probably one of the highlights has been having whānau that have trusted me from generationally, from a koro to a daughter to a moko. I that's a big privilege to me, to have someone trust me with their hauora, come into their home, kōrero, kanohi ki te kanohe, and go away and harvest. And especially in this day and age where we have a disconnection to our ngāere, and people might not be able to identify the rongoā themselves, that they would trust that I would be able to do that. That's a huge highlight for me.
Yeah, that's just awesome. That whakapapa effect, and that just pays tribute to the expertise that you have brought with us today. Ngā Zane, what are some of the highlights for you?
Yeah, I think for me, the beauty of working in an environment that has heaps of challenges, or can be highly challenging, is that you also get heaps of rewards from that as well. So most recently, obviously this has been grad season for a lot of our tauira down here in Otago, and across country as well, at all the different other institutions and stuff. But for us within the Health Sciences Division, we just had like 120 Māori students all graduate from different health professional programs. So that's Māori doctors, that's Māori dentists, that's pharmacists, physios, radiation therapists, med lab scientists. All of them have all just come through, and we're just seeing that number grow every year, and it's amazing, and it's so humbling as well to see that, to see our students being recognised for the mahi that they've put in, and for the things that they can contribute in the future to their communities, to Aotearoa. Those graduates and all the future graduates are going to be pioneers. They're going to be the next Mason Juries. They're going to be the next Apirana Ngatas. They're going to be all the next famous people that we all idolise at the moment. And on the flip side of that, we've got amazing outreach programs with tamariki rangatahi who would never have considered a career in science or in humanities or in health sciences, whatever. And to see them get a taste for things and be like, "Oh, I can do this," or "I'm interested in this," that just like lights a spark in your heart and just warms everything up. So there's heaps of things that are rewarding and successes that I'm so lucky and fortunate to be able to see every day.
Lucy, what about you?
I guess two key successes for me working in health was, I guess within the health sector, was just being a familiar face for Māori. Like I've already talked about, cultural safety, being there to advocate for our patients, seeing the difference that that I can make with Māori patients, just that the connection that we have, the immediate connection, throughout the therapeutic relationship that we form, that is very, very different to how they can connect to other non-Māori health professionals. It really makes a difference for them, and I really hope that it makes a difference for them so they will, continue to improve their accessibility to healthcare. I know that it improves their health outcomes, moving forward. Like, just having someone there to advocate for them, to make them feel safe within such a foreign environment for many of our whānau. I really have firsthand seen with just about all the Māori patients I've had, which, I've had quite a few, and they just really appreciate it. And it really does just, that's your why, when the nan thanks you for caring for her, said, you've been good, bub. Oh, the heart.
Hits the heart.
It just makes you feel so good. And, you whisper, I especially when I get my kuia, I whisper in their ear, when I've got a spare second, do you want me to make you a cup of tea? Things like that they know they'll appreciate, I can see if your whānau can stay a little bit longer, or, I just understand, I understand where they're coming from. And I guess with my own whānau successes, I guess it's just, I'm not the first nurse in my whānau. I've got my auntie's a nurse as well. But it's just also being to advocate for my koroi nan, especially, my whole whānau. But, we know that our kaumātua, they do have lower rates of health literacy. So really being able to be there for them. I always go to my koroi nan's appointments at the hospital, no matter how far. I'll be there to have a listen, to explain to them, because they need a really good explaining, a long time. And just, being, I just really love that I can just help my whānau in some way in terms of the healthcare sector and just advocating for them. And I guess that's what I like. Successes you call.
Oh, well, cool, guys. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. We're just going to take a quick second here as we transition to our next kaupapa, or talking about health in a bigger context. But before we do so, I do want to remind everyone listening that we do have a giveaway. We have a $50 Rebel Sports voucher on offer, as well as a 1-hour PT session with one of our ambassadors, Bonnie Jane PT. Get in there, whānau. That's a mean-as prize up for grabs for your hauora. Our winners will be announced later, and will be based off those who comment on our live. So get into it. All right. So what we're going to be looking at now is kind of breaking down different aspects of hauora Māori. And while there are so many different aspects, I think a common one that we can look at is our 4 taha. Okay, and those taha are our taha tinana, taha whānau, taha hinengaro, and taha wairua. And I'm going to have my panel speak to these taha, and then we'll just go from there. So, Lucy, you start us off. What is your take on the taha tinana?
I think I got the easiest one. I guess taha tinana, physical well-being, as we call it. So, it's just our day-to-day health. Mm-hmm. I think that it's important because it really, really does, just like all the other taha, impact, like maintaining a healthy physical well-being, we know really does impact the remaining taha, and just shows just how accurate Te Whare Tapawha is. Going to the gym, always a struggle, eating healthy. That's me at the moment. My goals at the moment are definitely my taha tinana. It's a constant struggle. It really is.
Thank you much for relating to that one.
Especially being on holiday. So,
yeah,
that's my take on it. We know what taha tinana is. It's our physical well-being. It's looking after us, whatever ways we feel good, whether that be dancing like whatu, or whether it be getting a good sleep at night. That's another thing, and they will, especially impacts our mental health, especially, I feel. But yeah,
nice. And I just want to draw on that too, like you said, one thing that you can do is go and have a workout at the gym, but also another effective thing is having a sleep. So, don't put expectations or pressure on yourselves, whānau, to have to go out and have a run. you know, connecting with the taiao and just going for a walk or just spending time outside, that's taha tinana too, connecting, touching, feeling the taiao, the elements out there. Yeah, so it's up to you, whānau, and that's cool.
Yeah,
What about our taha whānau?
Kia ora. Well, I think about, at the moment, I've got this beautiful koro who's been unwell, and to me, I just see the difference of when people connect. I love it. I love seeing that whānau connection and how that can lift people's hauora of coming around our pipi, our rangatahi, our koro, our kaumātua, our kuia, and it can be a lonely world. If we don't look after people, we can have great physical well-being. We can be eating really well. We can be in a great job, whatever. But if you're lonely and you're not connecting to your whānau, then yeah, you'll have a huge impact on your hauora. So to me, there's something we can do is look out for each other. Look out for our wakapapa.
Definitely, 100%. And I think, you know, that taha whānau is a really interesting one, especially for our rangatahi out there listening. And, you know, as they're starting to form these relationships with people, because, you know, whānau isn't strictly your blood. Whānau are your support network. Those are the people around you who reciprocate the love and that care for you. And I think for rangatahi at this time where they're working out who are their friends, who's their support network, taha whānau becomes a really important element to focus on. So if you're out there whānau and you're listening, you know, those who are around you, who are there to support you, who are there to just guide you, but also be on their own journey, those are the ones you hold on to, whānau. Zane, what do you have to say about taha hinengaru?
Again, I think this is the night of stitch-ups for poor old Zane tonight. But for me, taha hinengaru encapsulates the environment, and not the sense of the whenua and the moana and all those things, but for me, the things that are around you. I think especially for our rangatahi, for our taiohi, social media has such a huge impact on our lives today, and the way that we portray ourselves, the way that others portray themselves, and how we take those things on board, and how we think about them, how we act on them, really influence our perspectives on what health means and what health is. And I think of challenges that I've faced this year with my taha hinengaru. It's just been like, wow, things have been so busy and they're choppy and changing with COVID, or in lockdown and then you're out of lockdown. And I just keep thinking our taha hinengaru, like when it's just you by yourself, the only thoughts you're hearing, or the only voices you're hearing, or the only things that you're thinking about are the ones that are within you. So it's so important, I think, to shape about the things about how you feel about yourself and think about how that reflects your health and your well-being. And likewise, the ways that you portray yourself to others, how that might be influencing them as well. And for me, that's why it's such an important aspect of our health and well-being, especially in Aotearoa, where our rangatahi Māori in particular have huge challenges with their mental health, especially from a statistics point of view. We're well up there in the OECD in terms of poor mental health outcomes. So it's a huge area of concern, but also opportunity, I think. For me, I think there's so many spaces where we can positively contribute to improving the mental health of everyone. But that's not to say that it shouldn't be compartmentalized. I think anything you do contributes to your mental health. If you're feeling down and you decide that, I just need to go down to the supermarket, you just walking down to the supermarket has got you out into the open. That's looking after your taha tinana. You might have taken your whānau, so there's looking after that aspect as well. So I think it's already been reiterated by Lucien and Marie that all of these things are all wrapped together really, really closely.
Kia ora. Awesome. Okay, and now we've got a complex taha here, and I want us all to chip in here, and you can pick who leads this. What about our taha wairua? What do we have to say about that taha?
That is a very special one to me, taha wairua. I feel like it is, well, not feel, I know, it is, you know, the taha that is that is unique to us as Māori. It's ours, it's, you know, our tikanga, and it is something, it's important to us. I feel like it's the most important cornerstone of our hauora, because it connects us to our ancestors, you know, and we can see like that having a disconnection to your ancestors, to your tikanga, really can affect your mental health. In many ways, no matter what level of knowledge you have or whatever your background is in terms of te ao Māori. I think it's so important to our health, and it's important that it needs to be acknowledged more. I feel like it's probably the most neglected aspect of hauora within the healthcare system. Obviously, the healthcare system's Western, and it's something that I guess us as rangatahi can, can try and think of how we can incorporate more into the healthcare and now into our areas of health. I'll pass it along.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. What have you guys got to share to touch on that? Don't be shy. Come on now.
I tautoko Lucy. Aroha mic, it's fine. I just tautoko what you've said, Lucy. It is so pivotal, and especially today in this changing world, where how can we ground ourselves? How can we? What's the difference between mana whenua, tangata whenua is our taha wairua. So we can draw on that when sometimes maybe that's our trump card that other people don't have, but we forget it because it isn't like you said, it's not highlighted in our Western world. So we sometimes do forget that we do have that to lean on, and maybe that's something that I know myself personally I could work on pushing forward and my whānau, that hey, don't forget you've got this part of you that can help you through these tricky situations like lockdowns, COVID, social media, all of that's before us. Actually, we've got something that can ground us. So kia ora mō tēnā.
Awesome. Yes, that's great. Kōrero, thank you for expanding on that taha. And I'm going to pick on you, Zane. And because I think taha hinengaro is so important, and like you said, our statistics are high in that area. So I do just want to bring some light back to that. What do you think? Well, what can 3 top tips you could give to us to work on our taha hinengaro or work on that side? Do you have anything there?
Oh, just off the cuff, I've got them off the top of my head.
Yeah, just like that.
Nah, I think this is something that I guess something I can just chuck out and hopefully we can just wānanga about. I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts about this, and people will have their own whakaaro for those that are listening as well. But for me, I just want to touch again on what both what Lucy and Marie have said, is that we are so lucky to have this aspect of wairuatanga, I guess, because it is what makes us Māoris, what separates this concept of hauora from just being something, another word for health and well-being. There's such a greater sense of being within that. And for me, that sense of wairua is what connects us to one another. It's not a physical one. It's not something you can just express or say, this is what it is. It is just a connection that it exists. And for me, it's fitting that it's wairua, because for me, there's 2 aspects of a wai there. The wai that connects us to our ancestors, to those before us, and the wai that's coming after us, that's heading towards our mokopuna, to everyone that's coming after us. So for me, that's how it sort of connects into te taha hinengaro, is thinking about the ways that we move in this world. What are they informed by, and what will they inform? And I think if we're cognizant of that, thinking of, well, my tupuna made it over here from Hawaii or wherever they came on their waka, if they can make it from there against all the rough seas, and get to this tiny little island in the middle of the Pacific, I can get through today. And I can get through today to make sure that my mokopuna or my tamariki or whoever can get through their days in the future as well. And I think just being a good listener, it seems really simple, but I think we often think of listening to others, but you got to listen to yourself as well. Like you said, Fatu, if you just need to have a sleep, that's looking after your hauora as well. Listen to your tinana, listen to that little feeling that you get about something. That is a way to look after yourself as well. That's 2. That's enough from me. I'm going to pass it over to the other 2 if they've got a third one that they can chuck in there.
Yeah, what's a third one? What do you guys got? What's something else?
For hinengaro, I definitely think going home would probably be my key thing for tahining, probably for all of them, for Hinengaro and Wairua, going home, wherever that is, your tūranga waiwai, and actually going home, you know, stepping foot on your whenua and feeling it. That always makes me feel better.
And you know what? I'm going to expose a little bit of a secret out there to anyone who is non-Māori, but the beauty of our Māoritanga is that all our potential, all our ability to do anything great, all our knowledge, all our wisdom is captured within our whakapapa. Yeah? And if we can just tap into our whakapapa, you know, having whakapapa Māori means that I can do anything and everything. Because if I follow that whakapapa right back to Ranginui and Papa Tuanuku, you know, they were our creators, you know, thinking of Tāne, thinking of Tangaroa, Atua, Kaitiaki. They were beings of greatness. And if I whakapapa back to them, you know, that's in my line, then I can do that too. And I think just to take a pause, and for anyone out there who's listening, and if you're Māori, just know you've got it. Having a whakapapa Māori means that you are protected, you are safe. Be proud of that whakapapa, be proud to be Māori, and just hone in on it. If you can tap into those tikanga, the mātauranga, all of those things within your whakapapa, there's nothing that's going to stop you. And I think that's what you guys were able to capture so well in that kōrero. So thank you for being able to bring that to light. And we're almost at the end of our kōrero, even though we could talk about this all day and night. What are the challenges? So we've talked about challenges that you guys have faced working within health or in your guys' spaces. But if we're looking at Hauara Māori, if we're looking at the health and well-being of our Māori people, what are the challenges we're facing today in terms of our health and well-being? And I think I can just, if you guys just give me one each of something that you think, because I know there are a lot of challenges, but it'll be good to just bring to light some of them. Lucy, you start us off maybe. What's a challenge you think we're facing?
I think a key challenge, I've got a few ideas.
If you need more time, you can stitch our mate up or what?
Yeah, can I go next?
Yeah, you know what yeah, who wants to take it then? Maybe I don't fully use.
I'm just going to take a stab because, to be honest with you, I think, unfortunately for us, there's heaps. So probably thinking moving forward, like housing's huge. Even though we don't think about it as hauora, actually it is. I mean, it's to be able to have a roof over our head is a basic necessity, and it's affecting our people. And it's like to have somewhere to go home to have a warm whare, that's huge for our people. And being able to return to our whenua in a whare would be, you know, it just seems like a simple ask, but it's a huge something facing our people to be able to be in a home. So I don't know. I think I have. I've been blessed to go home to my mum and dad's house where I grew up in and was born into, and you know, that's something that not everyone has, and I'm really grateful for that. But I do think that for our people, that will affect our hauora hugely if we can't access good housing in the future. No,
I'm so grateful that you actually took it there, because what you've actually done is address that health isn't just about feeling sick. Health isn't just about, oh, I've broken my leg, I need to go to the doctors. Health is everyday things, barriers that we have to put up with in our lives, like housing, that affect inextricably to our health and well-being. So that was a really good answer, Mary. Thank you for that. Zane, what do you have?
So for me, I think is that Matatini's been postponed for another year. No, but in reality, it's a challenge. But I think for me, we're still confined to the rules and regulations of Western society. And when I think of when we're trying to create initiatives or strategies or whatever, whenever putting out funding applications or there's pools of money that pop up, there's always these like terms and conditions that are set from a Western framing or have stemmed from whakaaro Pākehā. And I think we as Māori really need to unite on that front and stop pitting ourselves against one another. We shouldn't be competing against one another for these pools of money, because all of our people need as much support as they can get, and for these structures to exist and to be in a place where they dictate which hapu or which iwi or which community gets this money is just going to perpetually grow, I guess, these inequities, or just make them persist. So for me, that's a huge challenge I think we face, and our work around that is to just bugger what they say. We're going to do it our way, or we're going to use whatever resources we've got in the community. We've got our kaumātua knowledgeable, we've got our marae, we've got our whenua, we've got all these things that we can tap into. We don't need the putia, we just need the manpower. So for me, that's a huge challenge, but there's some solutions right there that I think we can utilize to combat those.
Cool, and I just want to flow on from that, Zane, about how you were saying, we put ourselves against each other, but really we're all working towards the same cause. The other way of looking at it too, and this is a PSA for you out there listening, Māori asking for more access to resources, better healthcare doesn't mean less for you. It just means more for us, And I think when we are trying to advocate for better healthcare access, equity, people feel like that means that something's going to happen to what they have access to. But really all we're saying is just to have governance, to have autonomy, to have some form of control over being able to decide, this is what I need for my own health and well-being, and I know my whānau needs it too. Can we have it? Can we do it? Can we use it? Kia ora. Lucy, have you got one?
I just total for you too. I definitely think that, especially in current times, just one thing that Māori are struggling with is just being involved and having a say in terms of healthcare in general for our people. When we need to be at the tables making those decisions for our people, for our hauora, for the programs out there, and there's not enough of that going on. So I just total call you too, and yeah, we just need a really indigenized healthcare. I think that's really the issue there.
Tihei Moriora. Okay, well, Marie, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a spotlight on you, because for me personally, I know that I would love to learn so much more about rongoa Māori, harvesting, how to, attain it, use it on a daily basis, if not, for my whānau and that. Where's a good place to start looking for that information?
Kia ora. The number one disconnect to me about our mātauranga Māori for us now with rongoa Māori, where is it? Why is it not rampant in our communities or in our practices, is our disconnection to the ngāere. And say in Taranaki, that is like a real physical disconnect. There's like a huge clearing of land from the from the maunga to the sea, where all our ngāere is being cleared. So physically accessing ngāere has been a huge barrier. To me, the biggest teacher of rongoa Māori is tāne mauta and the rongoa and the ngāere itself. So just taking that time to go for a hikoi in the bush and spending that time becoming familiar, making that place your go-to when you're down and out, when you're happy. That's where you can start.
Nice. So what you're saying is it simply connecting, simply being in that space in the ngāhere, and just being there, soaking it in, is rongoa Māori.
Absolutely, and I think your kōrero before about whakapapa, that's something that that really resonates with me, because that's what it's about. Like we come from the whenua, we are the whenua, we are the atua, we're those two things. And when we come to be in that space of tāne mahuta, we can commune with him and he will share what needs to be shared. We just have to go there and be quiet and listen. And so really it is about our whakapapa, taking back what's ours, and like you say, indigenizing our own world again. And really all of it, like that's our taha hinengaro, taha wairua, taha whānau, taha tinana, all in a nutshell, just by being in our spaces again, having access.
That just makes me really excited to hear that, because, when we think about the access that our whānau Māori have to medicine and that, well, look at that whānau, free healthcare right there, the ngāhere, our taiao, our connections to our whenua and our atuas. It's right there, okay? And we just need to get out and immerse ourselves within that. And, you know, I'm just going, wow, free healthcare, wow, you know, so that's just making me really excited. Cool. So we're coming to the end of our kōrero today, and I just kind of reflecting on what we've been talking about. It's been absolutely awesome. I think we've dropped a lot of gems within our kōrero today for whānau and our rangatahi to take away. So I guess just to give you one more chance to say something, what is something you would like to either share, say, last piece of advice, or a wero out to our whānau and rangatahi out there? Just any messages around hauora Māori, really. What's something that you'd just like to have as a final say? And we'll just go around starting with you, Zane.
Oh, yep. Ditch the spam, take up the ham. So you know what the spam is? The ham is hauora and Māori. Koia.
Kōrero, brother.
What about you, Lucy? Any final words?
Please consider a career in health. We need you. Our patients need you. Māori need you. I need you there. I need some friends. We need some friends. You know, it's in your DNA, like I said, manaakitanga, all those things that encapsulate healthcare. And yeah, we just need you there so we can re-indigenize healthcare. So just please consider, especially nursing.
And Kara, I'm gonna jump the queue in there just to carry on from what Lucy's saying, and I'll make it my final comment too, just around it's in our DNA. Okay, I think just in the way that Western introductions of learnings and knowledge has come about has made us displace what we think science is. We think science is a lab coat. We think science is something that we have to go and study in an institution, get a tohu, get a degree in order to call ourselves scientists. But Zane, you said it earlier, you know, our tupuna sailed from Hawaii to Aotearoa. They relied on the stars. You know, we were cooking our kai in the grounds, and we still do today, relying on thermochemistry, you know, rongoa Māori, the science behind that. And so science is in our DNA, whānau, you know. If we just go back within, then we can be the engineers, we can be the doctors, we can be the rocket scientists, because our tupuna have told us anything's possible. And yes, science is in our DNA. So count for that, Lucy. That's my final say. Marie, what do you have to say?
Oh, ka tautoko. We've got it. We just have to back ourselves and back each other. Listen.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Oh, awesome, guys. So just want to send a big whānau mihi out to my panel. You guys are awesome to respond to this wero and come on with me to hopefully share some light around hauora Māori. And to everyone out there listening, believe in yourself and just be proud to be Māori and go hard. Yeah. And so with that being said, that's us whānau. So we'll wrap it up there. Mauri ora te everyone, ka kite. Thank you so much for listening.